Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Technology Theology. Today I want to be talking about speakers shooting for accuracy. There are no one-size-fits-all speaker systems. The speaker enclosures that most people are accustomed to are designed for portable use, and they cover as many venues and musical styles as possible. However, when designing an audio system for permanent installation, there's so many speaker systems designed for specific applications. First of all, let's talk about speaker sizes matched to the required frequency response so that we can avoid unnatural exaggerations. Have you ever handled a microphone and you hear this bass thumping boom, boom, boom? Or sometimes the speaker's voice doesn't sound clear and intelligible, sounds what we call muddy. Well, all of this most of the time has to do with the wrong size speaker being used. Speaker sizes range anywhere from 3/8 of an inch all the way to 21 inches and on up from there. So what's the difference in all of those? The larger the speaker, the general rule is the larger the speaker, the lower the frequency that it's capable of. I remember in high school, everybody wanted big speakers because it was all about the bass. And we couldn't hear anything we didn't even know what song was playing. We definitely couldn't hear the words, but the bass was fantastic. Well, adversely, the smaller the speaker, the higher frequency that it is capable of. And people think that big speakers, which need so much power, are louder, but a smaller speaker with less power can produce SPL or sound pressure level equal to that large speaker, even though it takes less power to do so. So selecting the right size speaker to produce the correct frequencies is critical. And a perfectly balanced system will utilize three types of speakers. A small high frequency driver, some people call it tweeter, which adds clarity and crispness and detail to audio. And then a medium sized speaker called a mid-range driver. It's usually 6 to 12 inches in diameter, adds a lot of warmth. And actually, this is the workhorse of the entire system because everything is in this range. The human voice, the piano or keyboard, the guitar, everything, the majority of it lives in this mid-range. And if you take that away, then you get a bassy, tinny sound system with no real warmth in it. So then there's low frequency drivers, or some people call them subwoofers, and that's 12 inches all the way up to 21 inches and on up from there. But a 12 inch adds a lot of punch. Think about your kick drum, just that kick. Then 15 to 18 inches adds a lot of rumble. They really shine with the rumble in the sound system. 21-inch subwoofers or a dual 18-inch subwoofer enclosure a lot of times is used just to create air in the room. We call it aural bass. It's when you walk into a room and the air is moving. You don't hear anything, but your leg hairs are tingling. And that's that 21-inch sub just moving air. Frequencies so low that are inaudible to the human ear. Okay, so let's talk about correct positioning of the speaker. First of all, let's address something. Nearly every speaker system has what's called a hotspot. Directly right in front of the speaker, looking right down the throat of the speaker, that could vary as much as 2 decibels. So a speaker says it has 130 degrees of horizontal coverage. Yeah, but what is the volume difference between the fringe of that coverage and in the center? You know, some speakers have what's called a waveguide driver instead of a traditional horn. A lot of line array speaker systems will have this. And what that does is it gives you great even coverage of sound, even really when it's really wide horizontally like that. Speakers that have that, that we like to use a lot are the TOA Electronics HX7. Those are great speakers that employ a waveguide driver instead of the traditional horn. So the primary way to position speakers is by doing some simple geometry, right? 130 degrees horizontal from this position will cover where to where. 90 degrees vertical, if that's what it advertises, then from this position covers where to where. And remember to avoid placing sound from the speaker where it's not needed. Only direct sound from the speaker is good sound. If the speaker is directing sound vertically onto the ceiling, then it's going to reflect to the back wall, it's going to reflect to the floor, it's going to reflect back to the front wall, back to the ceiling, and then it's going to hit the listener's ears, but long after they've heard it the first time directly. Some people call this room reverberation. I call it mud because it completely destroys the clarity and detail of the sound that you're creating. So clarity requires no unnecessary reflections. This means that speaker systems must be selected with room size and shape in mind, including the ceiling height. And this will keep audio hitting ears only. Another rule in positioning speakers is to place them equal distance from all listeners as much as possible. If you have a high ceiling and a shallow room, this is easy. If you have a long room with a low ceiling, not so easy. You don't want Edgar in the back to have to turn up his hearing aids while you're parting the toupee of the guest speaker on the front row. Here's some other rules to keep in mind when positioning speakers. Avoid horn driver overlap. In other words, the two dispersions of two speakers side by side, which a lot of people prefer in that stereo configuration, will overlap in the middle. The place where they overlap causes something called phase cancellation. It sounds like you're in a vacuum, where all the high frequencies, when you step into that position where they cross, all of the high frequencies seem to go away and you feel like you're stepping into a vacuum because they're literally canceling each other out. So avoid that horn driver overlap as much as possible. That's why in a lot of configurations you'll see two speakers in the center splayed outward instead of a speaker on each side facing straight forward. Also, position speakers in front of any sound sources like microphones to avoid feedback loops. Also, minimize the number of positions where you're mounting speakers to avoid multiple reflections and those phase cancellations. Another tip is to separate the low frequency drivers for optimal positioning and space efficiency. In other words, I can put an 18-inch subwoofer on the floor where I get the maximum impact from that sub while I fly my high frequencies and my mid frequencies high above equal distance from every ear. This creates a separation in the tonality of the system and, like we said, creates less mud. And there's so many other details that we're not getting into here. However, the number one thing that I want to leave you with is choose the right speaker for your space and position it correctly. When this is done, you're home free. You just made it easy for you to create good sound that every listener in your congregation is going to hear clearly. Hey, I hope you found this information useful. Be sure to subscribe to our channel as we continue to release more technology, theology, and AV made easy videos. Thank you.